What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in with Callie. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already. So the Klaw is coming back tonight against the Bulls, which is just in time. Really, it's a big game for the Clippers. Honestly, every game is a big game for the Clippers at this point. I mean, they've lost games, giving games away that they shouldn't have, with and without Kawhi on the floor, along with Norman Powell, who I'm really more concerned about Norman Powell because his injury seems to be lingering a little bit longer than I expected it to. And then on top of that, when you look at Kawhi being in and out of the lineup, between just, the load management thing and just his injury alone, it doesn't make the Clippers sighting look that very well, especially going forward, where it's like now you're looking right into the face of a playing tournament. Luckily, the Timberwolves lost the other night against the Thunder, which kind of helped the Clippers a little bit because the Timberwolves basically is on their ass. You know what I mean? If the Clippers lose 2 games in a row, they're not a playoff team. They're in the 7th seed. Or they could be in the 7th seed by default because somebody else wins, that's even close to the Timberwolves. Or if they lose, it's just so many scenarios where it's a lose-lose for the Clippers in this scenario, in this situation. They got to find a way to pick things up and be a lot better. If they don't want to do that, if they're not going to do that, then, it's a lost season for them, honestly, because if they go into the playing tournament, I just can't. It's going to be hard for me to expect Norman Powell and Kawhi and everybody to stay healthy to go from that distance all the way to the finals. Not saying it can't happen, because anything can happen when you got a player like Kawhi Leonard. I'm not even going to sit there and cheat you and say that and act like, and hold you, act like it's not possible. But it's very, very slim, especially going off of the last few years when Kawhi couldn't stay healthy enough to get the team over the hump so they can be a contending team as they should be, or the team that as they should be looked at. But either way, they got to find a way to win tonight's game, the game that's in front of them. Because honestly, I always said good teams beat the teams they're supposed to beat. If you want to be a good team, if you want to be a team that's known for a defensive mindset, then you got to go out there and play like it. Now, I don't know what's going on with the Clippers overall. I assume that Ty Lue is getting them in the right position mentally to go out there and play these games with that type of mindset. But at the same time, I do know that Ty Lue sometimes lets his players kind of freestyle in practice sometime and kind of like play freely and bring this great environment where everybody feels so loving and comfortable and all that stuff. Well, sometimes we don't need a loving, comfortable environment. We need a hostile environment in practice where everybody's going at each other, showing everybody that they can play, that they're gritty, that they got the mindset of wanting to win. Because honestly, those are the teams that win championships. I mean, they really do. You got to have a certain mindset going into, these games and going into these games for a reason and a purpose. And honestly, the Clippers are not looking like they're playing with a purpose when you're giving up 20-plus point leads to teams like the Pacers that you could beat, that you should beat, when you're losing games back to back, that, and you look very embarrassed doing it. I mean, there's no way the Lakers should have beaten them by 25 points without Luka Doncic. There's no way that should have happened. You could lose to the Lakers, but you can't lose by 25 with a 40-year-old LeBron and Luka Doncic didn't even touch the floor. That just can't happen. Especially when you beat the Lakers a few weeks prior to that. You see what I'm saying? Like, the losses that the Clippers are having is making them really look a little suspect to me. And honestly, I don't really like the way the situation is going for them, in this situation. I mean, I hope that they figure out a way to, rectify some things. But it's going to be kind of tough when, especially, you got your superstar player in and out the lineup in Kawhi and hoping that he stays healthy, and you're banking and betting on him to stay healthy enough to go through the playoffs when you're trying to conserve him during the season the way they are. And the problem now is they can't really conserve Kawhi too much because they don't really have the offensive pieces to do it consistently every night. Because even when Norman Powell was there every night, there were nights when Norman Powell just looked like the Norman Powell that we know of him to be, a 6-man. He didn't look like, a star player, in big moments. There's big games they've had this season where you look at Norman Powell like, he's going to have a big game tonight, and he ends up with like 14, 15 points or less. And it hasn't been many like that because he's definitely a scoring machine. But what I'm saying is it's the reason why he's not a superstar or a star player. So we have to understand that even though he's playing well, we have to give him the notion of he is a good player to a very, very good player. We can't give him that star type player role like some Clippers fans been trying to anoint him to be, because if that's the case, he would have never been a 6-man this long. And on top of that, even though he is good enough to be a starter, of course, he's also one of those players where he's very one-dimensional. He can give you points and buckets, but he can't assist the ball very well. He's not good at that, and he's not good at playing defense. He's decent at playing defense. He's not really, really good at playing defense. So it's like he's not a two-way player of anything that kind, but he's very valuable because of his scoring. But at the same time, when he's not scoring, he's really not helping the Clippers at all. So it's like we have to understand that Kawhi still has to be the guy. And as much as some people want to, try to give it to James Harden and Norman Powell, that's great if they can chip in. But Kawhi still has to be the guy. It still all falls on him. And honestly, their season is going to have to fall on him too, because starting the night against the Bulls, they're going to have to find a way to get a victory. Now, the Bulls put up 142 points the other night, and they beat the 76ers, which was not really surprising, but putting up 142 points is kind of crazy. But regardless of that, the Clippers are going to have to find a way to, just win one game at a time. Because honestly, losing these games and falling the way they are is really a bad time of doing it. And it's making Ty Lue look bad. It's making the team look bad, pointing fingers and all this other stuff they've been doing the last month or so and not playing great basketball or even good basketball. It's going to have to stop. And hopefully it stops tonight, because hopefully maybe the Klaw can come out there and, go out there and represent the way we know he can and play both ends and put an effect and a clamp on the game unlike any other player, along with James Harden, who can affect the game from the passing standpoint or scoring when he chooses to. And Zubac need to get big in the paint and stay big in the paint, just as he's pretty much been doing all season. And they play collectively as a team on defense and just take it from there.